Empathy. Is empathy a value or is it a curse? How's it going, everybody? It's Carpo here. Carpo719, voted best YouTube channel 47 years in a row. I'm very honored and humbled by that. And just wanted to say thanks to all my hundreds of millions of subscribers out there. And today I actually sat down to talk about cops. But I'm going to save that for another video. And no, it's not just because of current events. This is something I've been writing about for quite a while, and I have a paper about that I've been writing based on, you know, these three-letter organizations, the FBI, CIA, DEA, and, you know, abuse of power and whatnot. But it led me into thinking about the understanding of people and their needs, and how all of us have ups and downs in life. One person who may be a very productive citizen might have, let's say, a breakdown and end up going out and getting high, and then they get arrested, and then they go to jail and they end up doing a 10-year sentence for possession of some drug. And there's just no empathy for these people. It's like, well, you got in trouble. There's a certain sect of our society that says, well, if you broke the law and you got caught, that's the price you pay. Completely oblivious to the fact that the justice system is based on, completely ridiculous, not only laws, but the police are pretty much allowed to do whatever they like. And then on top of it, we have individuals who just have one bad moment in their life and they fuck up. And this is what I mean by empathy, is not just, caring about people who are starving or caring about people who are suffering or hurt, but caring about people who face day-to-day issues like you and me. We have moments where we can't afford to pay our bills. Most of us have faced at least one time in our life where we had a financial crisis. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty out there who haven't. Some of you may be fortunate enough to where you've never had to worry about money. And I don't look down on anyone because they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth. In fact, with the right mindset and the right, lessons taught, then that can be a valuable thing. But you can use it. I mean, you can work on so many aspects of your life if you're already wealthy. But there's a certain empathy that comes along with those who have taken back bottles and cans, say, to pay for, some food or a pack of cigarettes. Which I use the pack of cigarettes example as a perfect one, because when you're broke and you're hating it, you will take back cans and bottles to buy a pack of cigarettes, even though you're killing yourself with them. And I have even empathy for people who still smoke. I smoked for 25 years, So I guess that's my wide way of saying that empathy extends into everyone's life. When I see somebody who, just the feeling I get when I see a kid who's picked on or teased at school, that is probably one of the ones that hits me in the heart the most. When adults get abused, often we get ourselves into situations where we become the victim. We choose to be the victim. Not always. But with kids, they're the innocent ones. And so I have a lot of empathy there. Which, now that I've kind of introduced that idea of what I mean by empathy, it extends to all people. All facets of life. I would even extend it to, I hate to say it, but I'm not going to talk about any specific people in office, but let's just say it's even extended from me to some of the most horrific people in politics I've ever seen in my life. There's a part of me, a small part of me, that says, man, I really feel sorry for this guy or this girl, whoever it might be. Now, the question I asked at the beginning is it a value or a curse? And what I mean by this is having people in your life that you care about. Family, friends, maybe even celebrities or politicians. Some people really have a strong love for people they've never even met, or a strong, feelings for people they've never met. That's something I really have never been able to understand, except for unless they've delivered something that's so amazing to you, like Jerry Garcia, for example. I can't sit here and say I've never had empathy for a person dying. I feel sadness when somebody who's affected my life in a positive way passes. So you have a guy like Jerry Garcia, who a lot of people mourned his death. And then you have guys like well, Roger Ailes, the media, tycoon who passed away a few years ago, and nobody really batted an eye. And it's because the guy was a dirtbag. And I'm saying that because I still even have empathy for somebody's bad memory. If they were a shitty person, they chose that lifestyle, And if you're going to be remembered as a tyrant, well, you're still remembered. And that's one of those things, a lot of people just want to be remembered regardless of how. But I'm getting off track. Having empathy for everybody is sometimes a curse. Because you have to be tough. You have to have thick skin in this world. But if your skin gets so thick that nothing anyone says can get to you, if that's possible, because I'm only going from my perspective, but if someone can get that hardened, all I can say is it's probably not a happy life. In other words, when you subdue those feelings towards others, then you're also subduing those feelings for yourself and your life. And a lot of people are unable to even just sit in their backyard and enjoy seeing a bird land on a fence post or growing a simple garden. People are so wrapped up in this day-to-day bullshit that we consider life, making more and getting a better car, things I've never understood. When I see those people, the ones who are the keeping up with the Joneses type, I actually have empathy for them more than anyone, because they're so wrapped up in the propaganda paradigm. The buy, they have completely sold themselves to the commercial commodities market, Versace bags, or, I watched a documentary a month ago or so about the most expensive purses in the world. No, not Coach purses. We're talking these specialty purses that one dude had like this whole collection. A guy had a whole collection of these purses, like 100 of them or something. And I think, here's a guy with too much money and no fucking brain. I mean, you could call it an investment, whatever. But the point is, the fact that we're buying into this fake commodities market, it's like the fake art market. I have strong empathy for people who are that caught up in that bullshit. A lot of people look at me and say, oh, the hippie dude, right? And I love that. I totally love that hippie mentality. I grew up, of course, in the early 90s. I was wearing tie-dyes every day. I'm wearing a Jimi Hendrix shirt right now, but, I'm always wearing beads and stuff and long hair. And in the 90s, I went through a long kind of, hippie-ish phase, and I found people who were like, would point the finger and laugh. There are people who didn't understand their emotions or how to handle them. And I would say, some of the most hardened people are the ones that I feel the saddest for, because those feelings I've had with a community of friends, family, hanging out at a dead show with a group of 8 or 10 people, everybody, in their own states of mind, let's just say, coming together with people maybe you've never even met and sharing a moment. It's something that once you've experienced that, once you've found community in a stranger that you've never met before, because you relate on certain terms, you let your guard down. In other words, I've met some people in recent years that I've let my guard down, because if you want to make friends, you have to be able to let your guard down and just be you, and you have to trust. And let me tell you, I know all about distrust. I went through a long phase, and I've said this before, when I was in my conspiracy phase back in the 90s, mid to late 90s. And I went through it into the early 2000s. I was never like a full-blown conspiracy theorist dude, but I was obsessed in learning about all these lies that we'd been taught. And during that time, I was actually robbed, not physically robbed at gunpoint or anything, but I had at least 2 different friends who had allowed to stay with me because I felt bad for them. They were having hard times. And both of them stole from me. They stole family heirlooms, things that were really important. One of them even returned the things, and I forgave him. Then somebody stole them again. It was a time in my life where after that, I lost trust in people. I stopped having empathy for people. I stopped giving a shit for a while. I mean, I never really stopped caring about people, but I decided at that point, what's most important is the closest people in my life, and fuck everybody else. It took me 15, 20 years to realize that was really, it was completely unproductive. You have to be willing to trust strangers. And in order to trust strangers, you have to have sympathy and empathy and understand where people are coming from. And even if you've never been there, at least try to put yourself in their shoes. It's amazing how many people don't. And I'll just say this. There are some people who are incapable of empathy, and some people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth who have no idea what it's like to struggle or to worry. But let me just say, it doesn't mean that they're, I should say worry about money, not worry. Because many of those people are some of the most stressed out, anxious people there are in the world. They're trying to protect their wealth, they're trying to protect their fortunes, they're constantly worried about what people are saying about them. People who have a huge following just based on them being famous, I guess you could call it the Kardashian syndrome. You know, somebody who's never contributed anything to the world whatsoever, who's just a ditz, who people follow because they're like, ooh, wow, I'm gonna watch this person. Celebrity culture has made us idiots. It's made us less empathetic and less understanding. I would just say that sounds kind of off track from the video, but I even empathize with those idiots who put themselves in the limelight, get exposed, and then get a shitload of hate from it. Because the more popular you are, the more famous you are, and the more loved you are by some, the more hated you will be by others. One of the most valuable lessons I learned, for example, about making YouTube videos is that, I don't remember where I read it, it's not just about YouTube, but about writing, about politics, about anything. It says, if people start listening to you, there will always be somebody who hates you, who doesn't believe your message should be shared, and somebody who will bash you and harass you in any way they can, and you see this in politicians and in celebrities, you know. People are always looking for the one weakness. Oh, what's the new thing of the week? What did they do with ooh, somebody cheated on somebody else, you know? The Brangelina. It's like, it's crazy. It's a crazy world to live in. But my point being that I even have empathy for those people, you know, for some of the most foolish, I think, because I know at one time in their life, eventually, even the most shallow people will be faced with their own demons and be sitting in a room, and it will hit them that they've wasted a lot of time just trying to make people like them, or to be accepted, or to be famous or recognized, or to be wealthy. Because none of those things bring happiness. It's only temporary. I really believe that we can find it in here. It's in our hearts. It's hard, man. I fucking struggled in my life. You know, it's not like I'm a happy person, happy-go-lucky, or everything's great. I have all kinds of demons, my own issues that I deal with. And so I guess that's why I bring these ideas to the table in hopes that I can inspire others that maybe in a similar situation and questioning themselves, like, should I care about other people? Is it worth my time to, you know, really empathize with the world? Yes, it is. It makes you a happier person in my experience. And I can only read others' experiences and interact with people and say, what types of people do I enjoy being around? And why? And yeah, it's usually the hippie types, the people who really know how to appreciate life, who say, man, we're here for this ride, let's make the best of it, right? Why has that become demonized? As if it's, you know, oh, you get on a suit and a tie and get to work, people. I never bought into it, and I never will. I'm going to live this life as free and caring as I can, and that will mean I will face perhaps some heartache for being screwed over by others or trusting too much, but I'd much rather live that way than be one of those people who trusts nobody, hides in my castle, and goes completely, you know, turns into a lunatic from their own, you know, isolation. And yeah, we all take risks, and one of them is making friends, having relationships, and caring about other people. May sound silly, but that's how I feel. Talk to you later. Thanks to my patrons, thanks to my subscribers, thanks to all the peeps out there and subscribe and all that bullshit people say, and I'll talk